This meeting is being recorded.
All right, so welcome back to another episode of Insurance Toolkits podcast. I found my mic and I plugged it in, and I don't know if it's going to give us any better sound, but I instantly feel 10 times more professional. We have Kyle Studer on with us today. He's 100 times more professional on YouTube than I am. I don't even know how to do a thumbnail. One of the Toolkit staff does that for us. We also have Sam on. Sam works a lot in the background of Insurance Toolkits, but is also a great agent and a great guy himself. Kyle, why don't you introduce yourself to the viewing audience and we'll roll from there.
Cool. So, yeah, man, thanks for having me on, guys. It's a pleasure to be on with you guys. And I know that I don't know much about Sam, but I know, Chris, a little bit about your background, and you definitely know this business. So I want to thank you for having me on. Quick intro for me. I live in Ohio. I run an independent agency. We focus on final expense, Medicare, annuities. Going to tell you a little bit about how I got started. 3 kids, married. It's a quick background on me.
Outstanding. So what did you do before the insurance business, and how did you find your way into this wild world that we all work in?
Yeah, so went to school, studied psychology, thought I wanted to be like a psychiatrist or study criminals. Graduated that and was getting an apartment with my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, so I needed to pay bills. And with my bachelor's degree of psychology, I took that to Craigslist and started looking for work. First job was an infield marketer. So I was kind of like, if you've seen people sell DirecTV in department stores or Best Buys, I was like that, but for a home improvement company. So I was approaching people all day long, 8 hours a day, entering them into a drawing. And I call that, like, it was kind of like communications boot camp. I did that for 10 months. Then I did some telemarketing, inside sales. And then I started selling insurance part-time and went full-time beginning of 2014.
Awesome. So you had a little bit of background too in the large multi-level marketing world, the large 8 levels deep and your uplines world. And I think we all learn a lot from that, which kind of gives us a little bit more respect for where we find ourselves in the business. Sometimes agents don't really have that upbringing in the business. What do you think are some common challenges that agents deal with and sometimes never overcome? Not stuff they've won, something they've gotten better at, something that just outright kills agents in this business.
So I think most of it, man, comes down to personal responsibility. I don't think it's hard to give a lot of credence to external factors like, well, I got hooked up with the wrong agency or the wrong upline, right? It's not really a legitimate excuse, you know. A lot of us start off in not so great opportunities, comparatively speaking. I would say the number one thing is just fear, fear of rejection, but like fear to grow. You know, a guy told me early in this business, he said, this business will cut you open and expose all your weaknesses. And I was like 23. I was like, sweet. Okay. What does that even mean, man? But yeah, I'd say it's fear, man.
Sam, do you want to be cut open and grow, or would you prefer just to stay cold for the rest of the day?
Yeah, I definitely don't want to be cut open and grow for sure.
Oh, Sam, in your experience building software, talking to people in live chat, a lot of agents come from a lot of different systems. What do you think tends to be the reason they don't succeed? Is it fear to grow, fear to work? What do you think?
Honestly, from what I've seen especially with newer agents, it's more of a fear of their upline. For some reason, they don't want to ask their upline for help, or their IMO for help or whatnot. So they're just trying to make it on their own. And a lot of times people aren't built to just make it on their own at first. So I think that's kind of where a lot of agents feel at.
Kyle, I heard an agent say to me once, I know I only produce 9 or 10,000 a month, so I don't feel like I deserve to bother you with any questions. I'm sure you've had agents think that or not even say it before, but what would you say to an agent who doesn't think they're right enough to to get your attention?
Well, I think that can be a real situation, but it wouldn't be for an agent writing 9 or 10,000 a month. Like that would be so. In that case, with that agent, I would try to do what I always do and just assure them, like, dude, you know how many videos I put up on YouTube to find people like you? Like I put a lot of effort into finding you. So as an agent, understand, guys, how valuable you are. If you're a good agent, you write business and you're out there legitimately helping families, like don't compare yourself to other people or top performers. Don't compare your beginning to somebody's middle. You just can't compare. You can't compare an apple to an orange. You can't compare human beings. They're just too different. So I would just try to assure them that they're valuable and remind them how hard I look, how much time I spend looking for people that will actually work and take action.
Mm-hmm.
And that $9,000 a month agent, when they're ready, can become a $20,000 to $30,000 a month agent. Sometimes it just takes time, man. Like you don't become the best version of yourself in 2 weeks. It's a long game.
I agree. Now let's flip the script. You have an agent who writes almost nothing, who takes part in none of your training, doesn't watch any of the information you provided, doesn't buy leads, and then is constantly asking you questions about what should I say at the door? Can you send me another carrier? I need to be contracted with Sheep Life, and I need to start studying ACA and Medicare supplement. But all the time you're thinking, what are you doing? What do you say to that person?
Yeah, I mean, after a while, man, like there's times where, and I think I still have to grow in this area and learn when to do this, but there's times where you have to challenge people and just confront them and tell them, like, hey, can I tell you the truth? Do I have your permission to tell you the truth? Like because that's just, like I said, the first thing that stops so many agents is fear. And this agent we're describing, they're not taking action, and we can't put that in people. So if this is a person that doesn't take action, why am I going to spend so much time, energy, effort trying to develop their skill when they won't even go out and use it?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's kind of, if you can get good at like finding out who those people are and just be nice to them, treat them respectfully. Maybe they'll grow, maybe they'll be ready to change one day, but you definitely learned how to spend your time more wisely.
Yeah,
I would challenge somebody like that, man, and ask him. So, the easy way to do it is just ask him about the numbers. I remember Jim Rohn. I know we got to keep this fairly short, but I remember a story Jim Rohn told years ago. He was building a multi-level marketing organization. He has John come into his office and he's like, John, how many calls did you make this week? And John's like, well, is it John? Well, won't fit inside this little box here. I need a number. And so, yeah, guys, taking action is the biggest skill in this business.
I don't think there's any skill required in this business, honestly. You don't have to be very socially savvy. You don't have to be Tony Robbins. You don't have to be anything but the hardest worker, and the rest will work itself out. Which leads us into our next question. How do you personally take the emotion out of your personal production? There's highs and lows to this business. I think the more stable you are financially, the less emotional you become about your personal production. But how do you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely part of it, man. I'll speak on like what it's like in the beginning, but definitely I think once you get a savings account built up and you feel stable, and that there's different levels of that, everybody has their own threshold. It's a lot easier to compartmentalize when you have money in the bank and like, I don't have to make a sale today, this week, this month. But in the beginning, I think that's part of the growth that takes place, man. Like, that's uncomfortable. You've got $2,000 and you just spent $1,200 on leads. Like that's the situation looks like for a lot of agents,
Mhm.
if they even have $2,000. And so while you're out there working, like you're being molded, you're being refined. And like, if you think about putting pottery in the fire and refining like a pot, you got to heat that up. That's uncomfortable. Like you got to get uncomfortable, and you got to take action with fear and doubt in the back seat, and learn to keep it in the back seat. Don't take it into the house with you. And for me, I always just, what helps me a lot to not put pressure on myself in regards to closing and stuff, what's always worked for me is a personal mantra that I started using, just reminding myself, like, I'm here to serve, not to sell. I'm here to serve, not to sell. And just going into the house and trying to connect, like, I'm here to help them. I can't force them to buy. I can't force their hand, I can only do so much. So sometimes I think agents, we create internal pressure on ourselves because we're trying to overextend. Like if you've ever heard in sports, they'll say, stay within yourself. If you're not a home run hitter, don't try to hit a home run. It's the worst thing you can do. If you're trying to overextend or be something you're not, just chill out. Focus on the people, focus on connecting, focus on having a conversation, talk to your upline a lot, take action, and then correct course as you go.
Sam, you spend a lot. Go ahead.
All right. It takes time too, man, to develop emotionally. Like I also like to read a lot of Stoic philosophy. Marcus Aurelius is great. There's a lot of people that you can listen to. Jordan Peterson, they can help you think better, because a lot of us don't think very, very well. We beat ourselves up. And
Yep, it's true. I don't think we had anybody. Most people in this business weren't trained into the business. They didn't have a business background. They didn't go to school for an MBA. They didn't go to school for organizational leadership. A lot of people just kind of failed their way in or found their way in without any background to it. So we should expect some struggle, and we should expect some personal growth and development to have to take place. Sam, I could be wrong here, but I think you spend a lot of time in the physical fitness arena as well. Martial arts, working out, things of that nature. Am I right on that?
I do a little bit, yes.
Okay. When you're working on developing yourself physically, do they say, I want you to change everything all at once today? Like I expect you to deadlift 400, or what's the philosophy that people take in the physical fitness arena?
Absolutely. So with that, it's always a marathon. It's not a sprint. If you try to act like it's a sprint, you're going to have a blown out back and have some issues, health issues. So yeah, things, and especially like I do jujitsu a lot, and that's definitely a marathon. It's not a sprint at all. So it takes time. The average black belt takes about around 10 years to get. It's like the longest achievement in martial arts. So yeah, that's kind of the motto that I go by is, it's just a long stretch. It's a lifestyle. It's not really it's not something that you can achieve overnight for sure.
Interesting insight for sure. Kyle, how long does it take for an agent to become proficient in final expense sales?
so proficient, that's depends on how you define it, I guess. But I heard years ago, I heard a TED talk that said it takes 20 concentrated hours to become reasonably good at something. So that was one thing I heard. And so I don't know if that's accurate for what we do, but 20, focused hours in the home, kneecap to kneecap with clients, you'll certainly be a lot better than your first hour. Yeah, it's hard. I guess you would have to nail it down to a matter of like focused hours, because you couldn't say weeks or months, because some people work 7 days a week, or some people work 7 days a quarter. Mm-hmm. So you can't really put a time frame on it, guys. It's like as they say in telesales now, right? Like talk time. It's not how long you're in your office or how long your phone's ringing. It's talk time, like talking with clients. Same thing with face to face. You've got to get out there and spend the time and spend the hours. And so I've always told my agents about 20 hours, but I mean, again, that's just I didn't run the study, you know.
I think 100 presentations is a good number before you really are going to start to feel like you know what you're doing. I'm absolutely atrocious at math, but let's do this on camera for fun. 100 presentations by 15 a week. You're talking 6 weeks of full-time effort before you have a general concept of what you're doing. And then I think you have to be in the business 6 months and survive your first wave of chargebacks, because anybody can write business. Everything is going to pay you the first 3 months. But when it first starts to fall off, how are you managing that? And then when you have 20 grand in the bank, then I think you can get a little creative. You know, start to pick up another carrier, start to pick up another concept, start to something different than your single source of focus. Kyle, talk to me about some red flags you've seen from agents. You've hired a lot, trained a lot. I'm sure you've got plenty of success stories, but what are some red flags that you say to yourself, that person's done? They don't know it yet, but they will be gone in a few months.
Well, the biggest red flag in that regard is people who don't buy leads. You know, you can't you can't sustain it. I've had so many people call me, and I've had some agents actually write quite a bit of business on referrals too, but eventually it doesn't sustain itself. So people who can't get over that hump of investing in leads consistently, they can't flip from the employee mindset to the more of the business owner mindset. That's one of the biggest things that takes agents out. They won't invest the money. And other, you know, when you said red flags, it made me think of like, you know, agents that, as far as like my experience with red flags and building an agency has been dealing with people, dealing with roll-ups, and like this might be getting off topic, but like really refining the hiring process of who I'm going to work with. And I'm kind of in that process now. Like I've bit the bullet a couple of times on some people, and now we make adjustments through pain, not when things are going well, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, all right, now I'm going to change something. So, but and for me, dude, that's always the red flags are always, guess what these agents weren't doing? They weren't buying leads. Mm-hmm. They had no money to get started. Stuff like that.
I agree. Sam, if you went out to work out today and you weren't sore afterwards, would you have considered that to be a successful workout?
Not really. I would say that would not be a successful workout at all, actually.
Yeah, I think if you go into the field and you're not tired afterwards, you probably didn't put in enough effort. Some days it really does come easy. Like you come home and you wrote 4K, you're like, damn, that was right. Be ready to get hit straight in the face the next day. The next day is going to suck, I guarantee it. But if you come home and you're not tired, you probably didn't work hard enough. You didn't start soon enough. You didn't stay late enough. You were jacking around in the middle of the day on TikTok and not knocking on doors. You should be tired after a good day's work. Tell us a personal success story, Kyle. Like the moment it clicked for you, the moment you had a big growth moment, some personal success you experienced in the business.
Yeah, I mean, I think my first sale, my first appointment really kind of was one of those early successes. So when I first started, I went out on my first 6 appointments, didn't close anything. I was talking like logically about all the writers and all this crap that doesn't matter. And finally, I just like simplified it, went in, chit-chatted. I told them an emotional story. After the story, I asked them, hey, help me understand your situation. Why'd you send this back? And he just started telling me why they sent it back. And then I've refined that over the years. But that was the first time I could kind of see it. You know, I could kind of get some perspective on the process, and I could see, okay, so I kind of got a 10,000 foot view of this is how it works. Like you come in, you talk a little bit, their guard comes down, you transition to the business, try to evoke some emotion, find out why they sent this lead in. There's a variety of ways to do that. And then I saw like, man, it's kind of downhill after that. if I can get them to share that early on, like it's downhill. Now I'm helping them. I'm not selling anything. And so that guy's name was Harry Jump. So that was my first client. And then really, dude, in the beginning, it was just trying to repeat that, trying to just repeat that process and then refining it a lot over the years. But
Yeah, that couldn't be more true. And if anyone watched the end of the video, hopefully they more than everyone did. That's the big takeaway. Story sell. Exactly. Put the flip chart away, throw it out. Nobody wants to see your graph of whole life and term and universal. Story sell, repeat, and then refine the process. And guess what? If you're patient with it, you'll become really good at a business that provides you a pretty amazing living. Kyle, take the last minute, promote yourself, tell folks how they can get in contact with you if they were inspired by something you said today, and then we'll close it down from there.
Sure, I appreciate that. Well, just want to thank you guys for having me on again. And guys, if you want to know more about what I do, you can go to my YouTube channel, Kyle Studer. We've now got, I think, 850 videos on there, tons of content. It's all life insurance related. And if you want to know more about my agency specifically, you can go to kylestuder.com and scroll down to the bottom. Yeah, Chris has got it pulled up there. So yeah, if you want to check out some of my content over there, that would be greatly appreciated.
Outstanding. Thanks for viewing, watching, whatever word I'm supposed to use for that. But more importantly, like the video, comment below, subscribe. We get a good amount of viewers for each of these videos, but we would love to see us get to 2,000 as soon as possible. So hopefully you can help us do that as well. Kyle, thanks for being on. Sam, thanks for what you do to make Toolkit work front on camera and in the background as well. And that's it for today. Take care.